Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals and welcome to another StarCraft 2 England cast. Today I have got game 1 of a best of 3, it's from the Zotac Cup and it is between Fraer, the green Protoss player in the lower left position, and Revival, the red Zerg in the top right. The map is Cloud Kingdom. PvZ, it should be absolutely astonishing. I love these two players, especially Revival. He has got to be up there as one of my favourite players going, purely due to the fact that one of my first big events that I cast was, of course, Antec Attack, the weekly tournament, about 8 months ago now, and yeah, Revival and Hyun used to come in there all the time and gave us some absolutely amazing games, so I properly love these two. Now, what we're seeing here is a pylon down on the low ground outside the natural. It's to be expected from Fraer because, well, in PvZ, you usually go for either a Nexus first, Forge first, or you can go for a one-gate expansion, but all of those revolve around the fact that you want to get your Nexus down pretty damn early in order to get a good economy. The Zerg player, therefore, goes for, well, in normal terms, a spawning pool at 14 or 15, then a quick hatchery, followed on by a third base at about 4 to 5 minutes depending on their queen timings and what else they want to really get out in terms of defense. So 2 Zerglings, 4 Zerglings are a possibility. The reason you get the pool out before anything else is ultimately just to make sure that you're going to be safe against any pylons or cannons that could be coming down and blocking off your base. Won't be a problem though here because there is the supply depot, but cannon rushing is always going to be a threat. You don't see it too often at real top level play, but it's always something that could be there. In game 1 of the best of 3, you're not likely to see it due to both players tend to go for more standard builds purely to find out where there's going to be weaknesses in their opponent and where they can exploit that in game 2 or game 3 should it get to that. Now, looking here, Nexus first out of Fraer, know that because 1, he's got 400 minerals, but also the fact that the Forge wasn't yet down, so he's going to go absolutely economically focused. And meanwhile for Revival, his spawning pool finishing up. We've got a little bit of pro blocking coming on here. This is a good little thing to do. It doesn't take much APM and it does delay this base by a couple of seconds, which may not seem like much, but it can have a snowball effect as the game goes on and can generally just make things a bit better for you. So we'll wait and see if there is any big effect from that, whether we're going to see Fraer stay on 2 bases and get anything from an Immortal Sentry all in, a big gateway push, a Stargate, are all viable options. I mean, I doubt we'll see a Stargate on this map just because there isn't that much dead space around the back, but Immortal Sentry is very strong, especially when you look at this third base. The fact there's lots of areas to come in at, the fact that Force Fields can be really quite potent coming in and blocking everything. So we'll wait and see whether that is the case or whether Fraer chooses to go for a quick third, which is viable as well due to the fact you can get some nice gateways walling it off, and all in all it's not too tough to defend. And of course 3 base Protoss is strong, very very strong. They can get absolutely anything they want realistically. So yeah, that's really what we could be seeing coming up. We've got gas 1 and 2 on the way for Fraer. Meanwhile for Revival, we probably won't see any gas from him until around 40 to 50 supply. It's the standard times you'll be getting it out. Usually starting off with a lair first before speed. Speed not really needed early game for Zerg against Protoss, especially against the fast expansion, due entirely to the fact that you can defend everything with slow links that you need. So we've got 4 minute 45 third due to that pylon block, so delaying that third base is a nice move in my opinion. It's something that will throw off your usual timings, especially when we see here that there's only 2 Zerglings out. This base should have been hitting close to the 420 if not earlier mark, and by delaying it by that 20-25 seconds you get a period where the Protoss player will stay higher in the worker count than the Zerg for a little bit longer. Looking though, Cybercore on its way. We've got the Overlord coming in, not going to get any relevant scouting information. These 2 gas are always going to be there. The Cybercore that's getting spotted is... oh, the Cybercore not actually getting spotted yet, so that of course is always going to be there anyway. The Forge is noted by this Overlord, sees that nothing is researching out of it quite yet, so obviously Revival is going to be thinking, what is that gas being spent on? We've got 1 Zergling just sitting here outside the third base, making sure nothing comes up too early. We do have another Zergling on its way back. The 1 Zealot coming across will force a few more Zerglings en route. 4 Zerglings plus the Queen will be able to hold it, and now here is the important thing to see. The robotics facility is on its way down, so that narrows you down to different options. Obviously you could be seeing a sentry drop into the main, unlikely on this map just due to the fact the main's covered from all angles. but you could also be getting the Immortal Sentry all in, just a Observer out into a third base. It's all very, very viable, so it's really the follow-up that you need to keep an eye on, and Zerg players do need to keep a check on all the different units. We are going to see the Zealot taking quite a lot of damage. 4 Zerglings can take down 1 Zealot if they're microed appropriately, but it does leave the remaining Zerglings on very low health. We've got two gas up for revival at the moment. These 2 not taken yet, and the reason you often see the natural gas get taken first is purely down to the fact that if the Protoss player were to come in, they may not be able to scout into the main, and so therefore couldn't assume whether it's 2 or 4 gas. The Rotron on its way down as well, so that is some good news. We've got the +1 ground weapons for Protoss for Fraer, and he's also getting up his 4th gas, so everything coming together really quite nicely at the moment. We're seeing the Zerglings still just maintaining space, and the reason you're seeing the Zerglings try and maintain some space, try and get a bit more aggressive forward, is because if you stop a Protoss player in this wide open area, it's going to be a lot more comfortable than if any push reaches into your third, especially once you start getting sentries in the mix, because if you can force the force fields earlier, where there's a lot of open space, they're less effective, whereas if the push makes it to your base, there's choke points which you can force field through, which can split your army in half and cause you a lot of problems. These 2 Stalkers are going to get a couple of kills. You've got 16 Zerglings on the way, speed has started, the +1 missile attack started as well now for revival. Meanwhile, we have +1 about half done for Fraer, who's also getting up a couple more gateways, but not too much at the moment. So again, with just these Zerglings coming out, the Stalkers will be forced back. We still have good scouting coming out from this Overlord, sees that everything that should be coming. I don't believe the Immortal can get spotted, no, but the Sentry is seen. Not seeing the Immortal is important because that way it still leaves Revival guessing, but he should be always thinking in the back of his mind, could this be a 2-base play? The important thing he's scouting with here is that there's no third base. That third base timing is essential. If you see it come down, then you know that you're safe from any of the big 2-base pushes. So Immortal Sentry, gateway pushes, etc. If you don't see it down, you've always got to have those in the back of your mind. We do have the third Immortal on its way down, a good number of sentries as well. With the additional gateways being added on here, this is definitely a 2-base all-in. There's very little room to expand for Fraer out of this, but as we can see from Revival, he's pumping out an awful lot of units. He's already down to the 6 Roaches and 41 Zerglings, with 16 more Zerglings en route. +1 missile attack is nearly finished, Roach speed nearly finished, but it's a Warp Prism for Fraer, so this is going to allow this push to move out should he want to, and with that pylon wall up, it's definitely going to be a move out push. But he's going to run into some problems here with Revival, because if you stop this push early on and force the force fields early, it loses so much power. You get so much time to get out more units. Of course, the Zerglings and Roaches seeing everything streaming in. Revival going straight away, trying to pick up as many sentries as he can. The Immortals are staying up. That is the only downside. But as we can see, a lot of force fields forced straight away, and this means that Fraer is going to have to delay his push. It's giving loads of time to Revival in order to get out a lot more units. The Overlord does get taken out, but does not supply block, so that is fine. The 4th base already en route for Revival. He's not taking the normal 4th, and one of the reasons you might be thinking of taking this one is the push is likely to arc around this way to try and take out the 3rd, so it gives you some support there. The Immortals are loaded up into the Warp Prism at the moment, although apparently this Warp Prism didn't get the right directions. He's just off to go for a little adventure, but now coming straight back. It does get scouted though straight away, so I believe it was spotted anyway, it should have been, so definitely is now with the Zergling there. Units should get pulled back towards the 3rd base ready to deal with it, and that is precisely what we're seeing at the moment. +1 melee attack on its way, and Fraer looking to be expanding now. His push did not work, so he's got to expand. It's his only real option, because once you've spent all of this money on these forces, when you've lost a decent amount of your force straight away, you've got to find a way to transition out of it, because Revival has got a huge army on the field. He's going to be able to very comfortably deal with any aggression that Fraer could throw at him for the moment, especially with the lack of AoE, the lack of the Colossus, the lack of High Templar with Storm, for example. And as a result, the 3rd base is the best move. Tunneling Claw is now coming down for Revival. That's gearing up for a big push. It negates the effect of force fields being able to go straight underneath them. The +2 missile attack there as well. And with the +1 melee attack, a big Roach Zergling push could be exceptionally effective. Revival nearly maxing out already. He's out at 175 supplied. These few Immortals are taking some good damage. They're not doing much damage though, which is the important thing. A handful of Zerglings being kept on the high ground at the main base, because obviously the one thing that you're going to be worried about with the Warp Prism is exploiting this cliff area, which is very short by air but very long by ground. But look at this, a huge push coming into the 3rd base right now for Revival, and Fraer is going to struggle to defend this. These force fields are hitting, but they are slightly late. A handful of Roaches do get trapped. That is good for Fraer, and he is going to be able to clean up most of this, but the Zerglings are still going to be the threat. Upgrade wise, it's 1-1 against the unupgraded Zerglings for the moment. +1 melee attack will be coming in shortly, just finishing up now, but here comes the Tunneling Claws. No detection on the field at all for Fraer at the moment, and as we can see, this is going to be a big surround, but in comes the detection now, but the Umbo straight away, and a great surround for Revival. He's going to be able to pick apart this army incredibly simply. Roaches focusing down the Immortals as fast as they possibly can, because of course they are the big threat to the Roaches, but streams of units still coming in. A big burrow goes down, of course using the heal ability from the burrow Roaches, allowing Revival to get the absolute maximum effect out of them ASAP, but still this push moves forward. Fraer's army looking incredibly small at the moment, and Revival is doing some great damage. He's able to clean up these Zealots, he's able to clean up these Stalkers, and all in all, he's gonna probably force this third base down, because there's just nothing here for Fraer to deal with it. He's got a handful of Stalkers on the high ground, which are slowly picking things off, but as we can see, Revival is still flooding with units. We can see on the mini-map streams of units coming across, and with all of this firepower, with all of this damage capability, he's going to be able to knock out this third base for certain. If he doesn't, it would be incredible, but instead, going straight for this army, getting a nice surround, picking off the Immortal, which, as I said previously, is the only threat here. It does survive though, so you do need to kill that, but as you can see, Revival still streaming units, still producing his 2-1 upgrades, so basically if he gets this third base down, he's going to be in a very comfortable position. Behind this though, his own third has been knocked out by that Immortal drop, which is a bit of a downside to him. It has leveled things out quite a lot, but of course the fourth base was already there, but Revival needs to defend it, and if he doesn't defend this fourth, he is going to be in serious trouble, because a 2-base Zerg against a 2-base Protoss does of course favour the Protoss player. We do have more Roaches streaming across. First Colossus is en route for Fraer as well behind this. The upgrades are slowly swinging into, well actually they're pretty equal to be fair. It's 2-0 against 2-1, so that is quite equal. This Warp Prism harassment is being incredibly irritating, as we can see everywhere. It's picked off this third base, and that is the real key thing, and that is what's holding Fraer still in this game. It's been great micro. I mean, these Immortals have got a huge number of kills. They're trying to utilize every angle they can, but Roaches now sitting guarding this base. The Revival really could have done without losing his third. If he hadn't lost it, I would definitely be calling it that he was hugely ahead, and that is the problem. But look at this, Revival taking the hidden expansion down on the bottom right. Very unlikely Fraer will go and scout down there for it, so that could be the expansion that Revival really desperately needs. We do have the 2-1 upgrades, melee +2 and the armor +1 nearly finished up for Revival. Behind this, of course, no upgrades on the way for Fraer, so a lot of his APM being taken up by trying to utilize this Warp Prism Immortal harassment to the maximum. Thermal Lance is on its way. The first Colossus is on the field, but without Thermal Lance, Extended Thermal Lance rather, it's not going to be as effective as maybe Fraer would like. So many Roaches here. Of course, with the Burrow option, I don't know if there is an Observer there, so that will negate the effect of that. The Roaches straight away getting this round, going to try and pick up the Colossus, but the second one does hit the field at precisely the time it's needed. Gets up on the high ground with no vision. Revival will not be able to deal with that quite yet, and Fraer now takes the supply lead for the time being, but the power unit does get taken down. The Colossus falls very, very quickly there. The Stalker's trying to blink forward, and Fraer does hold, but he's taken a big loss. While he hasn't lost as many resources as Revival, he's lost some important units. Those Immortals getting very low on health indeed. The Burrow goes down, but with the Observer there, the Roaches will get cleaned up very comfortably indeed. And now Revival, he's got to find a way to deal with all of this. He's still pumping out lots and lots of units. He has the 2-1 upgrades for his army, both melee and ranged units, but Fraer is starting to pump out the big, strong force. He's got the Colossi there. He's got, of course, the Immortals still in the Warp Prism, still being irritating. If this base gets spotted, it's pretty hard to defend, and it looks like... Ooh, will it? Not quite by the looks of things, but the Zerglings coming out there may just give it away. Should Revival be paying attention, should Fraer be paying attention rather, but of course he didn't quite notice it, I don't think. Instead just sending this Immortal straight in, going to go up to the natural base, which is undefended for the time being. The Roaches going to quickly try and get back up there, but a couple of drones may get killed, but the Zerglings coming straight in. The Immortals very low on health, one of them incredibly low indeed, so that is got to be something to be careful of. The third base up now though for Fraer, happily mining away. He's mined out at his main pretty much, but then as we can see, Revival mining from his natural, his fourth and his bottom base down here. The third, or the natural third, only just getting taken again now after losing it to this Immortal harassment. So Fraer is definitely doing a nice job, and he's keeping Revival on his toes, and as a result Revival is really having to multitask to the max. He kept some Spine Crawlers up, he's getting a Spire now, and I think that Spire is a good choice because he knows that the Colossi count is going to be rising, and he's got to be thinking well, one, Corruptors in order to deal with those Colossi, but also to be thinking towards the late game more, getting the Broodlord Infestor army out, because of course the Infestation Pit still isn't down yet for revival, and that is something that we'd never usually see at the 20-minute mark. But this relentless harassment from Fraer has really thrown all of Revival's timings off, and both of these players are really stapled to the more mid-game position, where it's Roachling versus Immortal Gateway, with a handful of Colossi now coming in. Obviously that's transitioning the Protoss more into the late game phase, and Revival's got to catch up in terms of his tier of tech and the units available to him. So that's the purpose of the Spire. One of these Immortals has finally gone down. The other one is always going to be at risk with, what, 7 HP and a decent amount of shields, but this round goes down, an instant take out there, and finally Revival can breathe a sigh of relief not having to deal with that anymore. But we do have the Protoss force moving forward. The creep tumors are giving some detection about what this force is doing, so that's another great reason to spread your creep, guys. And as we can see, the roaches streaming in, trying to get clustered up, hugging everything to get as maximum firepower as they can. Zergling streaming from behind, and well, the Colossi getting taken out, and I think Revival should win this fight. It's going to be pretty close though. He needs to take out that Colossus, ideally, then he'll have a much nicer time, and now he's done that, the rest of these Protoss forces should get cleaned up. We've got reinforcements coming in for Revival as well now. The Sentry's going to go down, and that is the massive loss right there. Another Colossus has just spawned though, so he's going to be coming forward, but Revival knows exactly what he wants to take out. He can afford to lose a handful of roaches as long as he cleans out the AoE damage from the Colossus, which he does manage to succeed in doing. And as we can see, looking at the worker count, neither of these players really getting that high. Revival particularly low at 53 drones, so that's hurting his economy, preventing him from being able to get out some larger forces and keeping his supply very low. The Stalker's blinking forward. Of course, Blink Stalker's very cost effective at all points through the game. So that is precisely what he needs to do, but Fraer's got to be careful not to overexert himself, because otherwise situations like this can occur where suddenly Zerglings are streaming and suddenly the roach numbers get a bit too high due to the larval mechanic of Zerg, and straight away Fraer being forced to pull back. He's not got much of a defensive force now. He doesn't even have a Colossus on the field. It is just popped, so he's on its way across to try and help this. Blinking to the absolute max. Revival with the supply advantage though, resupplying with a lot of roaches, trying to push forward, trying to deal as much damage as he can. He's going to be forced back though by that Colossi. Does not have enough roaches to really deal with it effectively. Looking up though, the Spire is finished but hasn't been utilised in the slightest, and Fraer just GGing out. He knows he's a bit low on money and ultimately knows he's not going to be able to hold the next volley of attack. This hidden base at the bottom right for Revival really helped him. But yeah, that was game 1. If you all enjoyed, make sure you like the video, leave a cool comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you at game 2 any second. Bye for now.